Howdy folks, and welcome back to the Nature Photography Show. In this video, we're going to talk about telephoto lenses for landscape photography. When I first started into landscape photography, I wanted to bring everything in on the scene. And I didn't worry about having a telephoto lens. I had them, but I kept them in a bag, and I would open up wide and I'd try to bring everything I could into the scene. And it didn't take too long though for me to realize the value of having telephoto lenses in your bag specifically for landscape photography. Now right now on my Z9, I have the 14-24. It is one of my all-time favorite lenses for landscape, because it would be kind of strange to use it for wildlife. I guess if you're in a unique situation, you could do it, but still, this is wonderful for landscape photography. And the reason I like it is I can open up wide at 14 millimeter. I can put something interesting in the foreground and open up wide and get more of the scene. So that's how I use it, especially in Florida. That's how I use it quite a bit. But I find that this is not my most used lens, in fact, for landscape. I find this one, at least until recently, is my most used. It is the 70-200 2.8. If they had an f4 version, I would probably get that because you don't need the wide apertures and you can save a little space and a little weight for landscape photography. But they don't, so I have the 70-200 2.8. And if you look through all of my images, you'll find this is the most used one for landscape photography, but only until recently. Recently, I picked up this lens, which is the Nikon 100-400. It's the 4.5 to 5.6. Again, you don't need that big wide aperture, so you can save quite a bit of money by being able to pick up telephoto lenses that don't have that wide aperture, because chances are for landscapes, you're going to be shooting at f8, f11, f16, don't do f22, but you can if you have to. And it just allows you a lot more versatility in landscape photography. So what do I mean by that? Well, you're up early, most of the time anyway, sometimes you're out late, but you're up early to catch the sunrise. And there for a while, that light is golden and beautiful, and you're just photographing away. Well, as the sun comes up, the light gets harsh, it gets kind of not so great for the landscape. Well, you can switch to a telephoto lens and you can zoom in to different parts of the scene. I call them intimate landscapes. You can zoom into those different parts of the scene and keep shooting, and you can pull out vignettes of the landscape that are of interest to you. This allows you to keep shooting for a lot longer, and you'll find that the telephoto lenses will end up being on your camera more often than the ultra wide in most situations. Of course, there's always a need for that ultra wide. But like I said, recently, actually it's not even recent, the last few years, I have found that the 70-200 is my most used landscape lens. Now, what are some negatives to using a telephoto lens for landscape? Well, first of all, you can see the size. So I shoot from a tripod most of the time, so it's not really a big deal for me. But if you're a person that hand holds, these can get heavy over time, so that kind of stinks. But if you shoot from a tripod, it really doesn't matter. Although if you're doing some hiking, this kind of matters because this is not light. Again, Nikon doesn't have an f4 version of the 70-200. I'm hoping that it's on the block coming up soon, or relatively soon, the way things work. Now, there's a couple of other negatives, is these aren't cheap. Actually, I don't think there's any lens in the world that's cheap right now except for maybe the nifty 50, and even that keeps going up in price. But this is, the 70-200 is, I think, approximately $2,300. The 100-400 is $2,600. So we're talking about quite a bit of money for these. And then a 14-24 is also like $23. So none of these are cheap by any stretch. The good news is Nikon just came out with a 180-600 I think it is 180 to 600 lens. It's not their S line, but by all reports, it's really, really sharp. And it's only 1600. So if you're looking for some versatility for your landscape photography and you're a Nikon shooter, look at that 180 to 600. If you're a DSLR shooter, there are plenty of legacy lenses that you can grab for a whole lot cheaper and keep shooting in the morning as that light becomes harsh, and you can pull out those little vignettes. Now, another negative, it's not really a negative, it's just something you got to be aware of. If you're using telephoto lenses for your landscape photography, just know that your aperture, you might be at f11, but if you're zoomed all the way in at 400 or even 200, your depth of field is not going to be fantastic. So you might end up seeing that parts of the image are in focus and the rest are blurry. For me, I compensate that with using focus stack images. So I'll take several images at different focus points and I'll stack those together in Lightroom or Photoshop. Actually, it has to be Photoshop. Lightroom doesn't do that. Adobe, if you're listening. So that is one of the things to really consider. And like I said, talked about the weight and the fact that you really need to be on a tripod. Although if you have no issue raising your ISO, you can handhold these and you could probably get some good biceps in the process if you don't want to use the tripod. So if you're just getting into nature photography and landscape photography, consider the telephoto lens for pretty much all of your landscape needs. What's another really cool thing, I should have mentioned earlier, but I didn't, is that you can use these as wide angle lenses. Did you know that? You can use this telephoto lens as a wide angle lens. And you can do it by doing panos. It's where I turn vertical and you take several images and you stitch those together in Lightroom. Lightroom does that. Photoshop does that as well, of course. But it allows you to get a wider scene with a telephoto lens, and you get incredible detail in the landscape when you do that. So if you haven't done that, work on trying to do panos. It is absolutely worth the time. And the images are fantastic and detailed, and you can blow them up to billboard size if you want to, or mural size in your house and take up an entire wall, because you have lots and lots and lots of detail. So in closing, if you're new to landscape photography, do not leave out the telephoto lens as a major player in your kit. Yes, get the 14 to 24 or the 16 to 35 or whatever happens to be available for your system, because you'll find a lot of use for those ultra wide angle lenses. But don't leave out the telephoto. Absolutely consider the telephoto lenses for your landscape photography. You will not believe the results, and I promise when you do, these will become some of your favorite lenses in your kit for landscape photography. So thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell, leave a comment below, and let me know what you think about this video. What is your most used landscape lens for photography? And is there a lens out there for landscapes that you're thinking, this one might work for me? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, grab your camera, get off the couch, escape, explore, and create.